speaking of what I mentioned with the World Cup, rumor has it that it will be in Saudi Arabia.
Wait, what?
To host the 2034 World Cup, another one in the winter. Second one after Qatar 2022. Herc, are you cool with it?
The World Cup in Saudi Arabia or the World Cup in the winter?
The World Cup.
Those are both
porque no
things-
los dos?
Yeah, exactly, right? Those are both things that I have difficulty believing in. For many reasons. You can take your political stances, you could take your humanitarian stances, you could take your stances of when you think the World Cup should be played.
Yeah.
You could take your stance against FIFA and how you think they gift out or loan out, if you will, these World Cups, and there are issues to be had. That said, if you are going to have a World Cup in the Middle East, somewhere like Saudi Arabia, or like you did in Qatar, it absolutely cannot be in the summer. It was hot enough being there in December. It's not a pleasurable thing for fans or players. And it's not just about the games. It's about the lodging, it's about the training, it's about the facilities, all these different things that come into play here. We are removed from Qatar, and I could not tell you of one moment where I've seen or heard about a game played in those stadiums that they built.
True.
You know, in the same sense that Brazilian stadiums that were built have not been used. I'm hoping that's not the case in somewhere like Saudi Arabia, but most likely it looks like something like that will happen. But on the short, if you're going to have, for whatever reason, a World Cup in Saudi Arabia, it cannot be in the summer. So I'm cool with it being in a different time.
Well, there's and I'm just going to focus on timing, right? During winter time. I understand the reasons.
Yeah.
Very logical. It makes sense. But now we have to also consider what effect that had on club play.
Right, the calendar.
And how that, I believe, has had a domino effect on player health, player integrity. And it was a mess. There's no other way to put it. It was a mess. You're messing with the calendar, you're messing with the schedule, you're messing with players' recovery time, which we now understand finally that is crucial. And if it's not followed properly, then injuries happen. And not just casual injuries. Players are out for a year. Because what we're seeing right now is maybe a consequence of what happened almost, 2 years ago to the date. Because everything changed. Teams had to adapt, to adjust their training schedules, their preseason. There had to be a small preseason after the World Cup. And we believe that players are going to be there forever, right? And if we don't have this X player, we're going to have this other player just going to come, sub in, and be the same. And it's not the case. Yeah. So we can debate, we can talk about reasons why Saudi Arabia is going to be hosting a World Cup in 2034. We can talk about why that has to happen during wintertime. But we definitely need to talk about player integrity, player health, and this is not helping in any way.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing because we're talking about a few years down the line here. We're not even in the 2026 World Cup, right? And the calendar's already bad. And this is already creating that domino effect that you're talking about. And we're seeing injury after injury and just players not even being able to recover. And we're not talking about players that are in their later 20s. We saw what happened with Pedri and what that calendar did to him and just how tired he looked. And that's just the start of it. So I can't even imagine what 2034 will look like in this FIFA calendar. And nobody can convince me, clearly I'm not cool with it, nobody can convince me that this decision is because, with all due respect, Saudi Arabia won this fairly. Like you said, that's another debate that we can have. But FIFA has so clearly put their priority on lining their pockets. And I think this is a clear example of really, and they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with this, right? Having to move around so many calendars just to have this in the winter.
Well, think about that. You mentioned the World Cup was 2 years ago. They've since created and expanded competitions. Now you're an expanded Club World Cup that nobody wants, that they can't even sell. I mean, we're a summer, we're less than, what, 6
They had to
months
fit
away?
Inter Miami in there to sell it.
And they still haven't sold it.
Yeah.
So they're just expanding this calendar with more tournaments, which is going to condense the calendar even more.
Yeah.